Morning everybody, thank you for joining us at our first virtual annual general meeting this morning. I can confirm we have 37 delegates online with us, and we have more than 15 voting members in attendance, so therefore we are quorate this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Morven Brooks and I am the Chief Executive Officer at Disability Equality Scotland. I am joined today by our convener Linda Bamford and Colin Miller, our Treasurer. Later on the agenda, at the members section, I will be introducing you to the Board of Directors, the other Board of Directors who will come on the members section and introduce themselves. So some of you might have become very familiar with Zoom over the last few months, while others will still be finding their feet, which is understandable. So let me explain how today's session will run and how you can interact with us. At any time during the webinar, you have the opportunity to submit your questions to today's speakers. To do so, just type your question into the Q&A box in the bottom control panel. As time allows, the panellists will address as many questions as they can during the members' question session on the agenda. If you would prefer to ask panellists a question directly, please say so in the Q&A box and we can select you to speak. At this point, you'll have to manually unmute yourself to be heard. If you're having any technical difficulties using Zoom, please type any issue you're having in the chat box in the bottom control panel, and my colleague Ali Bruce will try and resolve this for you. Today we have live captioning provided by Louisa McDade. If you would like to view the closed captioning for today's session, click the button that says closed caption at the bottom of the control panel and they will appear on your screen. We are also joined by Linda Mackenzie and David Milligan from Sign Language Interactions, who will be providing British Sign Language support for us today. We will be recording this webinar and we will share the link after the event. Also, we have prepared a short event evaluation survey for attendees to complete after this event, which will hopefully improve the experience for our future webinars. Voting members in attendance will have received an additional link for voting on the re-election of board directors. If you experience any issues at all with this link, please tell us through the chat function and Ali will support you with this. If you're having any trouble hearing me or any of the speakers throughout this webinar, please let us know in the comment box and we'll try to resolve it as quick as we can. I'd now like to introduce you to Linda Bamford, our convener. Thank you.
Thanks, Morven. I'm just checking that I'm off mute. I am. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our virtual AGM. As Morven said, this is our first year holding our AGM through a digital platform, and we are hopeful that this will allow us to give you some updates on our progress from last year, share some of our plans for this year, and also facilitate a question and answer session with our staff team and the Board of Directors. Depending on the success of today, it may be an option to have hybrid AGMs in future to give more people the opportunity to join us without the time, cost and inconvenience of travel, and also to do our bit for the green agenda and climate change. The proposed hybrid approach to our future AGMs would also afford opportunities for those who choose to be there in person to do so, as well as accommodating those who prefer to, and it's easier for them to join us virtually. Morven has explained the Q&A function that we'll be using today, but also just to state that any questions that we don't get round to answering because of time constraints, we'll have the Q&A function saved so we can go back and look at the questions and use some of the issues that are raised to inform our work moving forward. Just before we move into the meat of the agenda, I'd like to thank the staff team for all their hard work setting up today's AGM. As I said, it's the first time we've had our AGM this way, and it's a new way of working for us. And the staff team have put in a great deal of effort to test out our IT systems and platforms to allow a mix of panellist updates, secure voting, and a Q&A session. There was also quite a bit of testament in run about the accessibility features, so hopefully we've got that right today. So just to thank the staff team for all the testing and the preparation work for this. Secondly, I'd like to take the opportunity on behalf of the staff team and the board of directors to thank members for being flexible in their approach to keeping connected and engaged with us during lockdown. Our weekly polls have been a great success, and this is due to members taking time to tell us how things are affecting them, what matters to them, and also providing suggestions that we can put forward to Scottish ministers, policymakers and service providers so that we can really tackle and reduce some of the inequalities. The return from our polls, which is your voice, has influenced our strategy development, and we have captured issues that you've been passionate and rightly emotive about. We're grateful for you lending us your voice to do this, and I'm sure that Morven's going to touch on some of the successes and the new engagements that we've had this year as a result of listening to you and you telling us what matters and what needs fixed for everything to be more accessible and inclusive. On that note, I'm going to hand back over to Morven, and no doubt I'll speak to you again at the Q&A session.
Thanks, Linda. That's great. I'm unmuted now. So I'm now moving on the agenda to the approval of the minutes from the 17th of October 2019. So all delegates would have received a copy of the draft minutes from our AGM held on the 17th of October 2019. I would now like to ask for a proposer and a seconder to approve these minutes. If you were in attendance at last year's meeting, can you type in the chat function box whether you propose or second the minutes? Bear with us for a moment while this just comes through. That's great. Okay, I can confirm that Dorothy's proposed the minutes and she was in attendance at last year's meeting, and also Scott has seconded the minutes and he was also in attendance at last year's meeting. Thank you. Are there any matters arising? If anybody has any matters arising, you can either use the chat function to raise any matters. No, no matters arising, so I'll move on the agenda. I'm now going to move on to the presentation of our annual report from the 1st of April 2019 to the 31st of March 2020. So it really does give me great pleasure to welcome you all to this year's annual general meeting, even though it's more different than normal, celebrating our 2019-20 achievements. This time last year, I had the opportunity to appreciate the immense contribution made by staff, directors, members and access panels alike. Especially earlier this year as we went into lockdown, the staff team have adapted incredibly well and I want to thank everybody. I'm delighted to report our achievements from April 2019 to March 2020. In these tough times, as a charity, they are vital attributes for any successful organisation, such as having a clear vision and strong leadership and governance, which is provided by our management team and board of directors. We have recently launched our 3-year strategic plan, and you can find this on our website. We also converted it into a BSL video version also. We will continue to build on these robust foundations and expand on our areas of work to meet the changing needs of access panels, members and disabled people in Scotland. Our main objectives this last year has been to improve disabled people's access to participation and engagement, improve understanding and reporting of disability hate crime across Scotland, promote connectivity between access panels, increase awareness and knowledge of access, inclusion and equality to the access panel network, establish a permanent youth access panel in Alloa as a pilot, providing a legacy of the Year of Young People, and ensuring that young disabled people have a say in their local community. Ensuring that planning and design professionals have access to the range of resources, best practice, advice and solutions aimed at accessibility and inclusive design. Ensure that disabled people have ongoing involvement and opportunities in providing their views on accessible transport in Scotland. Ensuring disabled people, transport providers, staff and other stakeholders have access to accessible travel guidance, information and signposting via the Accessible Travel Hub, and enabling a joined-up approach to tackling disability, hate crime and negative behaviours towards disabled people on public transport across Scotland. So how have we progressed during this period? We have increased our membership by 9.6% from the previous year. We have shared and promoted our work in our highly acclaimed magazine, Open Door, on a quarterly basis. We have had the opportunity to seek members' views through vital consultations. We undertaken 9 consultations during this period on various topics. We met our members, access panels and many different organisations at 4 disability roadshow events held across Scotland. And we have continued to progress with increasing resources and raising awareness of our Inclusive Communication Hub. We have made information more accessible for others by providing our Easy Read service, which is steadily receiving an increase in requests, providing the organisation a stable income. We have gathered the views from members on over 50 topical weekly poll questions during this time, which contribute greatly to the many decision making and policies. We have continued steady progress with the Accessible Travel Hub by increasing resources and information as well as reaching out to transport providers. We held 3 accessible travel events across Scotland during this time. We used the learning from our events we held last year to develop and then pilot a hate crime charter for public transport, working with Stagecoach, First Bus and ScotRail. We have continued to add resources and promote our Inclusive Design Hub, highlighting best practice in inclusive design for planners, developers, architects and building professionals in Scotland. And most importantly, we have continued to support the current 36 access panels which operate across Scotland. As members and supporters, you already know about the work we do, but the only way we can grow as an organisation is to provide more support for you, is with your help. We want to know about the good things that you're doing, whether you're an individual member. We need to hear your experiences, good or bad, through the consultations and the weekly polls that we communicate. If you're a disability organisation, let us work together more. Let us share information. We can help share your work, and we hope that you can help share the work that we are doing too. And access panels. We need you to tell us what activities you're undertaking, what you're exceeding with in your community, and likewise, what you're struggling to do. We are here to help you. Allow us to do this, please. Before I introduce you to Colin Miller to present our accounts, I would like to announce the opening of a recruitment of young directors, our young membership category and our annual member survey. So today we'll be launching on our website and our social media and emails to members shortly after the AGM, recruitment of young directors. I would be grateful if members could share this advert with your networks or anyone you know who may be interested in the role. And every year we conduct a member survey. It is so important that we do hear from you about what you're doing, but what improvements that we can make to your membership. Please take the time to complete this survey. We will send the survey to you by email or the format that you have indicated to us when you first joined us. And thirdly, we are launching our young member category, which was passed by members back in 2018 and it's now instilled in our Articles of Association. So this will be going live through our website and we'll send you further information by email also. I would now like to introduce you to Colin Miller, Treasurer, to present our accounts. Thank you.
Thanks, Marvin, and good morning, everyone. I'll present the financial review for 2019-2020. So the total income for the charity in this year was £288,340 compared to 2019, where it was £296,492. The main income continuing to be the Scottish Government grants, which totalled £175,132, the same as the previous year. We also received funding to administer grants for the access panels within Scotland of £45,000. That was down slightly from 2019 where it was 46,249. Transport Scotland provided funding of £49,728, again the same as the previous year, and that was to assist with consultations and our work on accessible travel for Scotland. The total expenditure for the charity over the year was £287,000 and £287,040, sorry. That's down from the previous year's expenditure of £296,492. The main spending being attributable to staff costs, £186,195, which is up very marginally from 2019, where it was £185,307. This year we administered grants totalling £26,862, which is down again slightly on 2019, where it was £27,370, and that was for the access panels across Scotland. Looking at the principal risks, there are a number of policies in place within Disability Equality Scotland to minimise risk, and in relation to the safeguarding staff, volunteers and members. These policies are part of the day-to-day working of the charity and are subject to review on an ongoing basis. The charity also has a reserves policy. The trustees consider that 3 months of annual expenditure is an appropriate level of reserves to hold to meet the day-to-day running costs of the charity. The total funds held at the end of the financial year excuse me, is £50,075. That's up from £48,775 in 2019. And of that, £18,202 are unrestricted reserves, again up on the figure from 2019, which was £17,427. Trustees continue to seek further funding to assist in increasing the reserves to an appropriate level. These accounts were approved and adopted by the Board of Directors on the 24th of August 2020.
Colin, I'll come back to yourself, Colin, for the review of fees and subscriptions payable by members. Thank you.
Okay, so the review of fees and subscriptions payable by members. We propose that the fees and subscriptions will remain unchanged for the following year. I would like to ask if we could have a proposer and a seconder to approve the fees and subscriptions.
Again, anybody in attendance at last year's meeting, if you could propose or second this motion, please, and use the chat function if possible.
Any member happy to second the motion?
Don't be shy, come on. There's 40 people here. So the fees and subscriptions is a question about what are the fees and subscriptions. So the fees and subscriptions are the membership costs, basically, of the organisation. We don't charge for membership. Our membership is free for any individual or organisation to join. So they have remained free for a number of years now. We are proposing to keep that unchanged and proposing to keep that at a free cost at the moment. So if anybody else is ready to second that. Okay. We do have Kenny Millen, who's proposed, and Dorothy McKinney, who has seconded this motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the delegation to the board, the reappointment of independent examiners. And it's back to yourself, Colin.
Thanks. So again, we're looking for members to propose and second the motion to reappoint the independent examiners, community Accountancy Scotland for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Could I have someone propose and second that motion, please? We've got Mike Harrison proposing the motion and Scott Stewart has seconded. So thank you very much. That's
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So now we're on to the election of board directors on the agenda. So allow me to explain the voting process. So each voting member here today has been provided with a link from SurveyMonkey, which takes you to an online voting form. If you're a member and have not received this link, please tell us now in the chat function. I will talk through each vote one at a time, asking you to vote after each one. Please use the chat function if you experience any problems, and Ali will be able to assist you. Once we have gone through all resolutions, we will gather the data from the online survey and the proxies received before this meeting, and we will announce the results after the short 5-minute comfort break. I can confirm that we have received 7 proxy votes in advance of today's meeting. Resolutions are proposed as an ordinary resolution, so this means that these resolutions to be passed, more than 50% of the votes cast must be in favour of the resolution. Biographies for each director have been sent out to you all in advance. The company's Articles of Association, Article 31B, contain detailed rules for the appointment and retirement of directors. There is a formal process in place to select and appoint new directors to the board. These directors are required to retire at this annual general meeting dated today. They can offer themselves for re-election by members. Under the articles, all directors are required to submit themselves for re-election at intervals not exceeding 3 years. If you're a voting member, please can I ask you to open the link that you're provided with for voting now, please. And I do know that some people are saying they don't have the link. So, Ali, would you mind just putting the link in the chat function for easiness? Okay, everybody. So the link's been provided in the chat function. If you can click on this link just now, we do ask you to state your full name and to tick yes or no if you're a member of Disability Equality Scotland. And if you're voting on behalf of an access panel, you can select yes or no. And if you've selected yes, if you can state which panel you are voting on behalf. Okay, if I can now ask for your vote on to re-elect as a director to the company, Linda Bamford. If you can select agree, disagree, or withheld. Okay, I'll now move on to the second one. If you can re-elect as a director of the company, Dorothy McKinney, please vote agree, disagree, or withheld. Once you have completed that, if I can ask you all to click submit, it's important that you submit your vote now. If anyone has experienced any problems with the voting form, please say so in the chat function so we can offer you support. Hi Mike, you may have to open the link again to vote on behalf of your panel. If you are an individual member but also a member of an access panel and representing the access panel, you do have 2 votes. So you may have to open the link again to vote again, either as yourself or on behalf of the access panel. if you're anything like me, I hate long silences. So I'm just trying to give everybody as much time and patience as possible to complete that process. I don't want to hurry anybody. Again, if you're experiencing any problems at all, please let us know through the chat function. Okay, so once everybody's clicked submit, we're now just going to stop shortly for our 5-minute comfort break. I will announce the results after this comfort break. This is just to allow us to verify all the votes that have come in, to make sure that the votes are from voting members, and to make sure that we have a quota amount there who have voted also too. So what we'll do is we'll return in 5 minutes, so that'll be 11:35. We'll come back on and we'll then announce the results of the votes, and then we'll go on to the member session. So thank you so much for all your time there. Thank you. Hi everyone. Again, thank you for your patience there. Before we bring on all the directors, I will just announce the, well, I'll wait a moment for all the directors to join us. Okay, I'll just make the announcement for the votes. Thank you all very much for your time and patience there. I know it's a new process for us all. So I can confirm that Linda Bamford has been re-elected as director, receiving more than 50% of the votes. And I can also confirm that Dorothy McKinney has also been re-elected as director, receiving more than 50% of the votes. We received 7 proxy votes on agreement, and we received 37 votes from delegates today on agreement also. So it was an unanimous vote for both. Thank you very much all for your time. So we're now moving on to members' questions. If you just bear with me while I bring on all the directors, and each one will introduce themselves to you. So just making sure we've got everybody. Okay. I think that's everybody there. Apologies, it always seems a bit slow online, doesn't it? Because you're never sure if things work. So I do apologise. So yes, I'd like to introduce you. I'll let the directors introduce themselves, in fact. So if we can start with Linda.
Hi everybody, I've already spoke to you this morning, but I'm Linda Bamford and I'm the current convener at Disability Equality Scotland. I know that an information pack came out with today's papers just to give you some background on myself to inform your votes. I won't go into too much about that other than just to thank you for your confidence in reselecting me for a second term.
Thanks, Linda. Okay, can I introduce you to Colin?
Good morning, everyone. Again, you've heard from me this morning. My name's Colin Miller. I'm the Treasurer at Disability Equality Scotland. I'm also a Chief Executive of the Scottish Personal Assistant Employers Network. Work with a number of different disability-based charities around employability, social inclusion. So that's me.
Thanks, Colin. Okay, can I introduce you to Scott Stewart?
Hi, good morning everyone. I'm Scott Stewart, a director on the board, and I'm also the manager of the Disability Information Scotland National Helpline, and I've been the manager there since 2016. Prior to that, I worked in local authority, working in adult social care, housing management and revenues.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to Janice MacDonald.
Hello, I'm Janice MacDonald. I'm the Chief Officer with Deaf Scotland, and I think we would describe ourselves as quite a close partner with Disability Equality Scotland, particularly around the themes that feed into inclusive communication, and obviously around equality and access and participation for people that are affected by deafness and other communication barriers.
Perfect, thanks Janice. And introduce you now to Dorothy McKinney.
Hi there. First of all, many thanks for voting me back in again. At times it feels like a lot more than 3 years and other times not. So thank you for that and giving me the opportunity to support Des into the next period of time. And as you'll have seen, my background is human resources, over 40 years now. And I always say to folk, my challenge in saying that is you now know how old I am. And the right answer is you don't look as old as that, Dorothy, but I'll leave you to decide that yourself. I'm also a mediator, a workplace mediator. So, and I work currently in a wide range of organisations. I love working in charities and with charities. It gives you that buzz of in whatever way you're supporting them, you're helping them resolve issues, and that feels good. And as you've probably seen, my passion is for supporting people to live the life they want to live and not the one that other people, systems and processes believe they should. And through Days, we do a lot of work in relation to that. So that's the bit that lights my candle. So thank you once again.
Thanks, Dorothy, that's perfect. And I'll introduce you to Maureen Morrison.
Hi everybody, my name's Maureen. I'm one of the trustees for Des and I'm also the operations manager for Spinal Injury Scotland. I have a spinal injury myself, so I can totally relate to Dorothy in terms of barriers that come up against us. And also as well as I still am a child of deaf adults as well. So I've always had disability around my life, even from a child as well. So thanks.
Thanks, Maureen. And can I introduce you to Kenny Milne? Can you unmute yourself, Kenny? There we are.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Trying to stay anonymous. My name's Kenny Milne. I'm currently employed with NHS and my main role is public involvement. I'm passionate about giving people their voice on matters that affect them or may affect them. I've been a wheelchair user now for nearly 25 years and access is something that's in my mind all the time. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks, Kenny. And can I introduce you to Susan Fulton, please?
Thanks, Morven. Hi, my name's Susan. My background is in the built environment and trying to identify some of the barriers and trying to come up with solutions and ways to overcome those barriers and working with the end user in design proposals so that the designers actually get it right by engaging with the people who are going to be using those areas. And I love to work the work that Disability Equality Scotland does in engaging with the end users, particularly during the current crisis that we're experiencing just now. So that's a bit of my background.
Thanks, Susan. So thank you all for introducing yourselves. It's obviously a really good opportunity to say hello. So we'll move on to the members' questions. And again, this is members' opportunity to really ask us questions about what we've been doing this last year or any suggestions for moving forward. And tell us a wee bit about what you're doing and how we can work together as well. So we have received, and it would be really nice as well to hear from those that we don't normally hear from too. And again, this is another platform where we don't always, some people don't always have that confidence in larger meeting settings or event settings to actually speak up. So again, this is another platform to hopefully to provide that opportunity to you to really ask us anything that you want. So I'm just going to address first of all a question that has come through the Q&A. If you do have any question, please use the Q&A, or if you'd rather come in and talk, say so in the chat function and we can unmute you and we can talk to you that way. So Ken Johnson from Open Access Panel has asked us around statutory consultee status and how that progression is going with access panels. And the main question there was, how can we get access panels listed as a statutory consultee set out in legislation. Now, this is a piece of work that's been ongoing for a number of years, and I think it was last year we did speak to access panels quite closely about this to try and progress it, to try and move it forward. There were concerns across some other access panels or individual access panels around the capacity that some access panels have in being listed as a statutory consultee. So we were just listening to the feedback that we received. There is no one size that fits all when it comes to if you're listed as a statutory consultee. So the approach that we've taken is to look at maybe supporting individual access panels at a local level with that approach rather than a national approach. But again, more than happy to have that discussion, more than happy to work with any individual access panel to support them through that process. Again, we are an umbrella body for the Access Panel Network. We are here to support you, so it's really important that you do come to us for that support, and we'd be more than happy and willing to help you through that. But if anybody has any further questions or anything else to add to that. No, so there's a few other questions coming through. Sorry, bear with me for a second while I just sift through them. Thanks, Patricia, that's really helpful to know. Patricia's obviously said that this platform is a really good platform to use for engagement and participation as well for many people who can't physically either get out or don't have the means to attend other events physically on a physical level. It's not to say that once we are fully out of lockdown, again, nobody knows what the future is going to be like. And we don't know what that new normal will look like either. But we will do our best to accommodate everybody's needs where we can, and within the resources and the restrictions that we've got to work to as well. So it's really good to know that this is a good platform for some people too. And it really has been, we've obviously shown through our staff team the diverse way that we can actually work together and with other professionals as well. And I'm sure many of you have also experienced that through this time as well. So some of the issues that have come up, especially through our weekly polls. So Lucy, you're asking what are some of the issues that are arising from service users and what are we hearing? So our weekly poll format has actually given us a really, really great insight into the barriers that disabled people are facing during this time. Unfortunately, a lot of the stories and experiences that we're hearing are not great. They're very negative towards disabled people themselves. So, for example, the physical distancing, through the phasing of lockdown, it's introduced many new barriers. And even now, as we're still coming out of that phase of lockdown, we're still hearing of new, different barriers that are causing an issue with many disabled people. So the physical distancing was an issue early on. The face coverings was obviously, that's one area that we've covered recently through our work in taking forward a social media campaign and taking forward some media work there as well to highlight what the exemptions are. It's important. It was important to us with the feedback and the experiences that we're hearing from many of our members, for example, not being allowed into shops, being refused entry into shops, being verbally and to a point physically attacked by the general public for not wearing a face covering when they were clearly exempt. But because exemptions are hidden disabilities, it can't always be identified whether that person is exempt or not. So it was important for us to hear. We were hearing what was coming through from those experiences, and it was really important for us to identify and address these issues head on. And we did create an exemption card ourselves for those who have a disability and a health condition. Now, I'll just make it clear though, the exemption card, even though it is freely available from our website, it's to give people the confidence to go out, because social isolation and loneliness was also a major issue that was identified to us as well. So by us providing an exemption card was really us giving people the tool, first of all, to highlight to retailers particularly, these are the exemptions. So that's educating retailers that the exemptions are there, these are the exemptions, and that person was exempt. And it was to obviously avoid that confrontation element as well. So our exemption card is available on our website to download, or you can contact us for a hard card copy as well, and we can send that in the post to you. And again, there's been many other issues as well, but I'd be happy to discuss that with you more, Lucy, if I haven't covered enough there already. Yeah, Patricia was just saying that this is one of the new things that work, but about the new norm is about obviously the digital interaction we're having now. I completely agree. I did see the BBC programme last night. We were contacted by them initially, and I think the journalist, he didn't come back to us, being honest there, he didn't come back to us. So we followed that up a number of times, because again, the data, the information that we have, the lived experience information we have from our members, we actually felt it was vital to feed into that BBC programme last night. I myself did attend, did do an interview on the 9 show about a month ago or so. Again, it was, the whole reason was to clearly express the views that are coming from our members about the exemptions that are in place as well. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up because I've got different things buzzing away here telling me there's things in the chat and there's things in the Q&A. So if anybody wants to come in and help, that would be really helpful. Lucy, we'll arrange that for you. You've asked for a card in the post, that's not a problem. Yes, Sandra, you mentioned there around shielding and looking for support and raising concerns with your employer. Again, we are hopeful that the tools that we've created is about educating employers and retailers about what the exemptions are, because what we're hearing is that many employers and retailers are creating their own rules and disregarding what the actual exemptions are, and taking a blanket ban approach that if you're not wearing a face covering, you're not allowed into the premises. Well, that's not the case. That's not what Scottish Government are communicating either. So we'll be happy to obviously to help you out there if we can.
Sorry, Marvin, I was just going to say, David Taylor's asked if you could ask a question. I don't know if David wants to ask, like, rather than through the Q&A, maybe to speak.
Yeah, actually, yes, Is that Derek Taylor? Derek Taylor, yeah.
It's David, actually.
Oh, is it? Sorry, David. Sorry, I've got different. Sorry.
No
Apologies there,
problem at all.
David. Sorry.
You said just to give you a wee bit of background of ourselves.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
I am a disabled user and use a wheelchair. This happened to me in 2009. In 2014, I ended up in Glasgow University doing community development, and I'm on my last stages now, just writing up my dissertation for my honours degree. But more so than anything, I've been involved in Scottish Community Development Network, sat on the committee there for some 6 years, and now, like Colin, I'm the treasurer of that organisation. But one of my passions and my question is very much, not so much directed to Susan, but within my own personal feelings, I'm very much protracted towards this aspect of building houses, building, you know, accommodation. And I, you know, I hear so often about people like myself finding it really, really difficult to find anywhere that actually ticks all the boxes that we require. And I believe there was, I'm not totally correct on this or sure on this point, but I believe there was some form of legislation brought forward from government to emphasize the thought process behind building a certain percentage of accommodation. But I very much would love to get an insight from Susan, because this clearly is an area that I would love to get into, not only as a lived experience, but certainly community development wise, and the whole point of this for me is about, I have an opportunity now to pay back and to help other people that go through them barriers. Particularly, I know about the barriers myself, like some of your directors, you know, that we live these experiences day in and day out.
Susan, are you happy to come in, or yeah?
Yeah, hi David. You make a very good point about the involvement of people in the design process, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline, because I appreciate that other people want to ask questions. But very quickly, if you know your local community council, it might be good to join them, because currently, I can struggle with this word, statutorily, community councils are the only statutory consultees required under the planning application process. So if you've got knowledge and insight and experience, then those community council members get the opportunity to look at planning applications. So that might be a good starter. But I'm happy, what we can do is get your contact details, and you and I can have a conversation out with the AGM, if that's okay.
That would be great if that's possible, please. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, David, and thanks, Susan. Jenny's asking if there was any consultation with government between us and the Scottish Government about social distancing. Very early on in the lockdown, as you can imagine, even with Scottish Government officials, everything was very fast moving and very fast paced, and it's only just starting to slow down just now, but it's still very discussions and equality impacts and consultations are still moving very quickly. We did run a weekly poll on the physical distancing, and it did identify a lot of issues that our members were experiencing, and we share all our weekly polls. We produce a summary briefing, and we will send them out to key ministers and Scottish Government officials to make sure that it is feeding in to the discussions and the decisions that they are currently making. We do that on a weekly basis, and we do it in a targeted approach as well. So I can only assure you that our feedback has been fed into any sort of decisions or discussions that have been had at that time and moving forward. And again, it's our role to keep making sure that we're bringing these issues to the forefront all the time when we're having discussions with Scottish Government and ministers. So thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Patricia. Again, we shared the BBC programme on our social media. I agree, it'll be a good watch for everybody, absolutely. Derek, you're asking about blue badges. I agree, and this was touched on very briefly when we were talking about exemptions, and again, people getting into sort of debates. What was the difference between wearing a face mask and the exemptions in place there and the blue badge spaces? Obviously, there is a bit of a difference. The blue badges are a different process, of course, where you have to complete application forms to identify what your disability is, etc. We are aware that there are many issues still with blue badges and how they're being abused. Again, absolutely happy to do a further weekly poll question on that with our members to identify exactly what the current issues still are. And again, happy to take that forward with Transport Scotland as well and work that through with them too. So thanks, Derek. Pat Shields, yes, you're right. Only 8 I omitted from saying at the very beginning that Caroline Griffiths, our other director, our 9th director in fact, did submit apologies today, and that's my omission, so I do apologise. So we do have 9 directors in place. We have 2 spaces available, which we are looking to recruit 2 young directors onto the board. And that recruitment, as I stated earlier, will be going live today. So please feel free to share that, that's fantastic. Exemption and face masks, so we'll stand on this. Yes, Chris, you've mentioned around dyspraxics and how there's confusion on exemption with face masks, and it'll be useful to know more how other disabilities stand on this. Again, the exemptions that are in place are worded in a way that obviously if you're unable to put a face covering on or to withstand wearing a face covering due to a disability or due to stress and anxiety, you don't need to wear a face mask. They're not, the exemptions are, it would be impossible for the exemptions to list every single disability. So therefore it is worded in a way that around the conditions of stress and anxiety and the physical element of unable to wear or withstand a face covering also. Again, happy to have a further discussion with you, Chris, and if that lends itself to a further weekly poll amongst our membership to find out what are the current issues. Again, we are still currently working quite closely with Scottish Government at the moment on exemption card messages, etc. So I'd be very keen to still understand what the current issues are or any new issues. I'm sure that many of you will be aware that the news announced just today around face coverings now to be worn in schools. Again, how is that going to impact young disabled people in education as well? So again, it's important for us to understand that and feed that back to Scottish Government, absolutely. I'm not seeing any more. Would any other director like to come in?
Maureen, could I think it was Derek Taylor that raised the question about blue badges, the kind of second part of it. One of the things that organisations such as MAX, I should have said I'm also the convener of the Mobility and Access Committee for Scotland, but one of the things that we've really been pressing on, and I know other organisations such as Disability Equality Scotland and Glasgow Disability Alliance have been pressing that when the pop-up infrastructures and the spaces for people, when these infrastructure changes are put in place, that blue badge spaces are protected or cited as close to where they were before as they can be. I think Derek's question was about who you should approach for some of the parking problems for blue badges in Glasgow. And I would suggest that I know that as well as DES and MAX and Glasgow Disability Alliance and other organisations, if he approaches his local councillors and MSPs and just really makes that point to them about how crucial it is to protect the blue badge spaces.
Thanks, Linda. That's really helpful. Lucy, you have mentioned a specific card on epilepsy. Again, we're happy to contact Epilepsy Scotland and possibly work with them on that message as well. We've tried to keep our card messaging quite simple rather than going into individual different disabilities, because then we would then be producing all sorts of cards, and the cost, if it was to be a physical card, we don't have the resource for that, unfortunately. So, but I'm more than happy to contact Epilepsy Scotland on your behalf and find out how they're handling cards from that point of view. Absolutely. Do we have any further questions? I note that we've still got 31 attendees, which is great. You've all stuck with us. Thank you. Is there any other? Anybody like to come up with any suggestions for membership? Again, we'll be sending out the member survey shortly after our AGM's closed. No more questions? Any other director like to come in? Don't be shy.
Probably just me again. and it was back to that, what we've raised about the 2 vacant positions we have sitting on the board. And I think it's really exciting for us to be thinking about that young director category, to bring in those fresh ideas and allow some of the younger people to get some board skills in a safe place while they kind of hone these skills and get some stuff to add to their CV. Which obviously would help with employment opportunities after that. I'm aware that the advert's coming out today and the link to it, but it's really an exciting opportunity, and I think most of the board are really excited about it as well, and getting that chance to work with younger members and their fresh ideas and bringing their energy into the boardroom, and crashing through some of the preconceptions we've got, and really just challenging us in the way we think things, or what can and what can't be done. So there really is, just to kind of re-emphasise, there really is an exciting opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely agree, Linda. John Ballantyne from Edinburgh Access Panel has just been saying that we're doing a lot of work due to problems caused by Spaces for People project. We did host a Spaces for People webinar a few weeks ago, so it'd be quite good to follow that up with you, John, if that's okay, to find out what you're doing and how we can support you more with any of that you're taking forward. That'd be really great. So I'll ask Emma to get in touch with you if that's okay, John. Pat, hi Pat again. You're asking a question about the Motability scheme. I'm not very familiar with the Motability scheme. I'm not sure if any director is more familiar with it than myself, but again, I'm more than happy to find out more about that issue that you've just explained. Obviously someone's passed away and they had to have the car returned immediately, and they had the no claim bonus. They had no claim bonus to take forward also. Does anybody have any experience of that on the panel?
I've got a bit. I haven't seen the question on the Q&A yet, but is it to do with, rather than me scrolling through, is it to do with the no claim bonus?
Well, someone's wife passed away, and he was expected to return the car immediately, and they had no claim bonus to take forward.
Right. What you can do, is quite right, because you're under a group insurance, you don't build up your no claims bonus, but what you can do is contact Motability Customer Services, and they can issue a letter just to say how long he was driving under their insurance and that he had no claims during that period of time. So that should help, since you don't build it up as an individual.
Okay, Pat, what we can do there, if you don't know the details for Motability, we can get the contact details if that's going to help with you. Hopefully that's helped you there.
I was just going to say, Marvin, that I have a relative, but it's over in Northern Ireland, whose husband passed away, and she contacted their local individuals who said to them, oh, just bring the car back when you're ready. So perhaps it just depends on maybe who it is, whether they're feeling empathetic towards you,
That's so true.
sadly.
I know. And Patricia, it's great to hear you've tried to talk to charities working with young volunteers. Again, contact us anytime, be interested in hearing about your experiences there, and obviously any suggestions that you have for ourselves and working with young people as well, and our communications too. We are currently members with YouthLink Scotland ourselves, and we'll be taking forward work hopefully with Young Scot too. So we're building up connections and relationships up there with young organisations also. But yes, any feedback that you can give would be really helpful, Patricia. Thank you. And thanks, David. Yes, I agree. It'll be really good to see young disabled people on the board too. Again, we don't see, I think the statistics are very, very low of young people who actually sit on boards. not just across Scotland, but generally across the board. So it would be really nice to see young people on the board, and we're really excited about this next phase, in fact. Yeah. So, and Derek, don't know if Linda, you might be able to add in here. It's about blue badges again. Access to cities, one way, bus gates in Glasgow is almost impossible, and getting to spaces equally impossible. Is exemption to bus gate charges possible? Something I'm not familiar with. I'm not sure if any of our staff are aware of that either.
I'm not too familiar with that. I know that most of the cities are looking at low emission zones, and part of that is also to drive other vehicles out and have the city centres. Most of the vehicles going in is what they call mass transit, i.e. buses or double-decker buses that take more people, therefore there's less individual journeys and less cars. I think the only thing that they're kind of looking at for that just now is making sure that the buses that do go in have got priority bus lanes and got low emission zones. But I think the other side of that is with the LEZs, the low emission zones, and the changes to city centre traffic plans is that it's about driving people out. One of the other things that we've been pushing is that blue badge holders and disabled people will need access.
Sorry, Linda, sorry to cut across. There's a question to see if you can maybe slow down a wee bit. I'm presuming from the sign language interpreter. Sorry.
Captioning, yeah.
I was trying to remember to do that as well. I'm for the way to speak fast. But I think the drive is more about getting mass transit in and out of the city centre, so that people are using public transport and using the bus network and less reliant on private car. But one of the pushes we've been putting on that is that there has to be the understanding that disabled people will still need to use the private car, so there should be exemptions for blue badge holders going into the city centre. But the drive's more to get the other traffic out to free up the congestion a bit.
If that's not helped, Derek, then hopefully that has been helpful for you. Again, let us know.
As well, just on the back of that, and somebody mentioned the programme last night and the equality impact assessments and the fact that they don't seem to be getting done. This sounds like exactly the type of thing that there should be a quality impact assessment getting done before they make these changes. So it's perhaps just highlighting the fact that these impact assessments are not being done prior to making these changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to suggest with Derek that I take his question forward to Transport Scotland just for a bit of clarity on that as well. So I can always get back to him. Yeah, perfect.
I think as well, some of the changes just now that have went in are temporary measures. But Colin's right, if these are going beyond anything that's temporary to assist with physical distance, and if they're staying in place longer, then there needs to be robust equality impact assessments. Absolutely. So that these type of things not only can be identified, but we can put in mitigation so that the places remain accessible for everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think we've ran out of questions again. Does anybody have any further questions? I'm just trying to squeeze as much out of you as possible.
I raised a point earlier, Marvin. I got lost somehow in the chat, I think. But one of the difficulties I see happening locally, and it seems to be increasingly happening, is that disabled spaces are suddenly becoming charging points for cars to charge their electric vehicles, and the disabled space is not replicated anywhere else. It doesn't go as, which is a problem in some areas. I don't know if it's Scotland, but it certainly is an area.
Yeah, I think we have come across that discussion through, it was either a webinar or a survey we had conducted. But yeah, we should be raising these issues and taking them forward. So again, that's another one that I can look back and check whether we've taken that forward with Transport Scotland. Absolutely, for clarity there.
On a more positive note, our two main hospitals in Ayrshire, Cross House and Ayr Hospital, we are just about to go to consultation to put our disabled cars parts in the hands of the council, so that anybody misusing them may well be fined for doing so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I think, a huge step forward, because the misuse of blue body spaces is terrible at times.
Yeah, absolutely. I will touch on impact assessments, quality impact assessments. We have been contacted a few times, more than a few times, from Scottish Government to provide feedback on equality impact assessments. But I think it's been picked up as well through the chat and through the Q&A as well, as the time element. Often it's a last minute thought, and if I'm honest, it's probably a tick box exercise as well. And I do communicate that with my own communications, that the importance of obviously contacting us before they get to this point as well, but regarding equality impact assessment, so they can meaningfully take our feedback forward and use it through the assessment itself as well, and make the changes required if need be. So yes, equality impact assessments is an ongoing discussion that we have with not just Scottish Government, but other public bodies as well. I think struggle display I've watched now. Yeah. Again, yeah, Patricia is just saying there around organisations struggle with disability, and she's watched now that they're put at the bottom of the list essentially. I would like to think more positively, if I'm honest, that especially the work that we are doing, we're bringing the issues to the forefront. It's not just the issues, we're also really keen to provide the solutions, and I think that's most important. It's not us identifying what those barriers are, but how to fix those barriers, and how to address those issues is equally as important. And again, I'd be looking to our membership for those answers as well, and I'm really keen for our members to come to us with what potential solutions they are to the current issues that are out there too. So keep that in mind as well when making contact with us. We're here to help you as a member. We are here to support you. So it's really important that you come to us and utilise us for that purpose as well. I'll need to get back to you on that, Caroline, regarding the accessible electric car charging points. Now, I'm looking to one of my colleagues, particularly Emma Scott, possibly. I'm sure if we've had some...
Sorry, Morven. Sorry, can I just... I've noticed in the chat that Louisa, the closed captioning is needing a short break.
Short break, right, okay, that's no problem. Okay.
Shall we just
stop
break?
there? Yeah, can we just stop there for a 5-minute comfort break? Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Thank you, thanks.
You might have told me about the captions.
Kenny, it's just to let you know you're not on mute just now.
All right, okay. I will do that just now, thank you.
No worries.
Take it you heard me putting my lunch order, yeah?
I'm glad that was all I heard.
Not much exciting happens here.
Okay, thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Caroline, I was just in the middle of answering your question there on accessible electric car charging points. It was ringing a bell with me. I'm sure we'd had brief discussions on this before, but I'm quite keen to take forward a weekly poll question on this issue and a possible webinar. So that's really good to raise that, actually. So that is we don't have anything solid there that we've actually taken forward in the past on that particular issue, but it would be really good to do that, so thanks. Sandra, you've asked us which employers we link in with in Glasgow. You're looking for obviously good models of feedback. We don't work with individual employers as such on helping and supporting them. We don't have the resources, unfortunately, to do that. We do, if an employer was to contact us, we would most definitely offer support and advice where we can. Inclusion Scotland actually work very closely on the disability employment area, so they might actually be quite a good organisation to link in with there too. But again, most of our work where we can, we'll communicate to a larger audience on best practice on different areas of the project work that we're taking forward, whether that be on inclusive communication or disability hate crime or accessible travel, for example. They're the main areas that we are funded to take forward. So I hope that's helped you there, Sandra.
Yeah, just a quick observation on just when I was thinking through last night's programme as well. Ian Hamilton, the reporter who was doing the programme, he made a very kind of profound statement about, I've never felt more blind in all my life, because, you know, we're putting up signs telling people to keep to the left, etc. And I just wonder if there's something in there that we could perhaps highlight as well, to remind people that, you know, it's not just about access in the physical terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of stuff there about other disabilities.
Yeah, and we take that forward through a lot of the inclusive communication work that we do, is identifying hidden disabilities. Because it's not just about the physical element either. Communication is a huge part of our lives. Whether you have a visual impairment or a hearing impairment, especially with the face coverings at the moment, it's having a huge impact on so many people. And communication is a huge element of that as well. And I touched on earlier about the school situation. Again, communication is not just about us communicating, talking to each other. It's about facial expressions as well. And even in a school setting, whether the young people have a disability or not, that's equally as important to understand how people are feeling through facial expressions. So yeah, absolutely, completely agree. I think we've got a question here from Caroline regarding working together, Access Panels and Disability Equality Scotland working together to get a minimum wheelchair turning circles enlarged in the building standards. Again, more than happy to take that forward, absolutely. If that's a survey that we can put out to the Access Panel network even in the first instance to gather the data and arrange a meeting of the Access Panel network to take that discussion forward and looking at what approach we would take in doing that through any possible amendments to the building standards. Absolutely, we'd be more than happy to work with the Access Panels to take that forward. Again, if you've got suggestions on how best we do that with the Access Panel network, we would welcome that too, absolutely. Hi Hilary, you're asking about the work that we are taking forward with the hate crime agenda. There's lots of areas there that a lot of our current work, and especially the weekly polls, have actually fed into disability hate crime. We are funded to pilot a hate crime charter currently through Transport Scotland, and I mentioned that through our annual report from last year, how we piloted that with ScotRail, Stagecoach and First Bus. So we're continuing to take that forward. Obviously during lockdown it's been a wee bit more trickier to take that element of actually piloting the hate crime charter, because the key messages at the moment are about COVID. It's about our safety and keeping safe and our physical distancing and the face coverings. They're the main health messages that need to be communicated on public transport at this time. But there is also an argument that a lot of this kind of still links in with disability hate crime because of how people are treating others for not wearing face coverings, for keeping to physical distancing if they're unable to understand or keep to that physical distancing due to their disability or health condition. So we're very much keeping that on top of our own agenda when we're having discussions with Scottish Government and Transport Scotland. We are also currently receiving funding now from the Ferries Accessibility Fund and working with CalMac Ferries to pilot a hate crime charter on CalMac Ferries, with the hope of obviously working wider in that area of ferries as well with disability hate crime. So if you want to discuss further about that, Hilary, more than happy to have a chat with you. Okay. John. Yeah, John, you've mentioned there that councils don't seem to respond to any criticism about the administration of spaces for people. I think my feedback there would be, well, we're more than happy to work with you to look at how that communications is going with local authorities. And it's looking at what the issues are. I suppose it's going back to my previous point as well. What solutions are you offering? How are you looking to work with the local authority in this area too, around spaces for people? Absolutely more than happy to have a conversation with you, John, to see how your access panel are taking that forward, as I previously mentioned there. David Taylor, you said you want to speak again. Yep. Ali, are you bringing David on? Yep, yeah,
yeah,
right,
I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, going on a different subject, and apologies firstly if I've missed any literature on your website or anything that I've missed about this subject, but my dissertation is been around the aspect of domestic abuse, and an amazing amount of literature is quite rightly focused on women and children. But, and this is my question, is there anything that the organisation does or puts out, or, you know, has meetings with other organisations in regards of people with, you know, particularly I'm focusing on women and children again, who have disabilities, and particularly with COVID and the lockdown, there's been a massive increase.
Yeah.
So my question would be, you know, is the organisation taking any part within this, please?
Yeah, I don't know if you've come across our Disability Safety Hub, David. So we're funded to host the Disability Safety Hub, and it's a hub that we put together similar to our other hubs in the purpose that it brings information, advice and signposting to other organisations out there, and the hub is aimed at disabled people to get the information they need at a time in an accessible format or an inclusive format as much as possible. So we do work very closely with Police Scotland, especially around disability hate crime, and that there is links to domestic abuse organisations in Scotland that can provide support and advice to disabled people as well. So if you have a look on our Disability Safety Hub, again, we're just it's a signposting information online website. But again, we're consistently reviewing that and updating it. So yeah.
Could I just pop in there, David? I've been doing a lot of work separately to DES on the impact of domestic violence on individuals in workplaces. And I'd be very interested to understand and have a chat with you about what you're doing in relation to the disability side. And yeah, and see where that takes us. If you're up for that.
I would, you know, be grateful to be able to do that, because I have spent a few months now just immersed in this subject.
Yeah.
And you know, the more I find out, you know, as a male, I feel appalled at the, you know, of what goes on. But that's my own personal view.
Absolutely, love to connect with you. So hopefully someone can send me your contact details and we'll have a chat. That'd be
Thank
really
you.
good.
That would be good. Thanks.
Good.
Thank you. Fiona, you've mentioned there about obviously this new normal, and online meetings such as today's AGM show that it can be done, but obviously it does rely on being equal access to digital inclusion, access to technology, data and skills, and you're asking what are the plans for Disability Equality Scotland to promote equality and digital inclusion in the year ahead, such as ensuring digital accesses and questioning all social care and health assessments. I completely agree with you, and this is one area we've particularly tried to focus our conversations with the Access Panel Network during lockdown, from the beginning of lockdown, and we're still taking this piece of work forward with them particularly. We focus particularly with the Access Panel Network because we are the umbrella body for them, and also we manage a grant from Scottish Government to Access Panels. So there's an opportunity there for Access Panels to allow us to help support them with purchasing IT equipment, organising training for them, identifying where the gaps are with digital access, for example, for them. I would love to open that out to our wider membership. Unfortunately, we just don't have the funding there in the sense of being able to offer to buy IT equipment and offer that training element as yet to our wider membership. But we do share a lot of information through our newsletter and Open Door with any opportunities that come up with training, especially around digital participation and inclusion there as well. SEVO do offer a training through their Connecting Scotland, I think it's Connecting Scotland website. There is training available there for disabled people, particularly it's focused with, to try and aid them to get online. I hope that's helped Fiona. Again, I'm happy to take that discussion forward with you if it's not been helpful at all. Okay. Has anybody got any other questions? I'm squeezing every single bit out of you. Does any other director want to come in at this point? Again, just to kind of go back on the work that we've done, especially since lockdown, but again, this is a lot of work that will be reported next year for our annual general meeting. Our team have adapted incredibly well during this time, all having to sort of start working from home, and obviously learning how to host webinars and events through Zoom. So it's been a huge learning curve for us, but we very much embraced it too. The added part of that though as well is it's the accessibility part. It's making sure that these tools that we're using now are accessible to as many people as possible. And we know it's not going to work for everybody, but we want to make it work for the majority of people that we're connected with. That's great, David. Okay, I think I'll just wrap up the members' questions if there's no further questions. Okay, I'd like to thank you all again for your time and patience for our AGM, our virtual AGM, and the members' questions. It has been very insightful, actually. Having those discussions have been really helpful. So we do have an evaluation form which we'll send out to you all. Again, your feedback is more important than ever now, especially using a virtual platform. It's really important that we hear, are we doing it well? What can we make it? How can we make it better? So please take the time to complete that. But I'm going to end there and thank you all and say goodbye. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.